Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. We are here with our Thursday news. I don't know what the theme of this day is, and it's the themeless Thursday. That's right. We're just covering, there we go. We're just covering whatever the hell we want today. So let's go ahead and get into those news stories. Today on Before Coffee, green washing bonds in Brazil, how European banks are linked to the deforestation and slavery.
And the U.S. House of Representatives has a new speaker, and his name is Mike Johnson.
The Leaning Tower in Italy has been closed after fear of collapse.
And we update Hurricane Otis in Mexico.
Nomads, why do Gen Z teens want less sex on screen?
Those stories and more, which is October 26, 2023, National Pumpkin Day on Before Coffee.
Let's get into our first story here about European banks. Yes, that's right, banks are evil everywhere, just not in the US. Not only in the US. This is from Dolores Katanik with Reuters. Environmental campaigners have dragged controversial investments into the spotlight, claiming that major European banks are linked to businesses that harm threatened species, engage in deforestation, and other questionable environmental practices. European banks, including Switzerland's UBS, the UK's HSBC, and Spain's Santander, have been thrown into the spotlight after two recent reports linked them to significant environmental damage. The revelations come as these green investments, so-called because they were made to fund environmentally friendly activities, are increasingly falling under scrutiny. The UK Financial Conduct Authority is investigating the sustainability-linked loans market, while a new European green bond regulation is coming into effect next year, a gold standard that aims to eliminate any greenwashing from the bond market. How Brazilian green bonds link European banks to allegations of deforestation and slave labor. At the center of the allegation is the green bond market in Brazil, which environmental campaigner Greenpeace says UBS and Santander, among the other non-European banks, have acted as intermediaries in. The banks helped investors to purchase green investment assets, according to a report by Greenpeace's investigative journalism project Unearth, which generated funds that were ultimately used to finance controversial companies including deforesters, land grabbers, and ranchers accused of slave labor in Brazil. The banks orchestrating these bonds transactions define the price of the bonds and sell them to investors in exchange for a fee, which is usually 3% to 5% of the total offer. The allegations focus on so-called agribusinesses receivable certificates, or CRA, an asset-backed security which represents investments in agribusiness, financing those on the ground in hope of hefty return on investment. These are referred to as green bonds, and they were initially created to support small-scale, sustainable farmer practices in Brazil. But in reality, the market has swollen by around 8 billion euros, and the bonds often finance large companies and their suppliers. In these bonds, it's these bonds that have linked European banks to claim on deforestation and even slave-like working conditions. According to Unearth, UBS helped Brazilian grain trader Caramaru to raise funds worth 66.5 million euros in CRAs in October 2021. Part of the money ended up in hands of Caramaru's soy suppliers, Unearth said, some who have history of illegal deforestation and land grabbing. Another has even been sued for alleged slave-like labor. Caramaru denies wrongdoing, claiming that it monitors the environmental compliances of all its suppliers and that the company hasn't done business with all of the suppliers. As such, it is possible to state that soy was not acquired from places with issues of illegal deforestation or land grabbing, nor from farms with some work similar to slavery, the company said. For its part, UBS said it does not knowingly provide financial or advisory services to clients associated with damages to high conservation value forests, conservation value forests, child labor, and forced labor, among other practices. UBS isn't the only European bank caught in the crosshairs. Spain's Santander was involved in raising funds to the tune of 280 million euros in CRAs for JBS, the largest meat processing enterprise in the world, in August 2023, according to Unearthed. JBS admitted in 2022 to buying cattle from the farmer that prosecutors dubbed one of the one of the biggest deforesters in Brazil, despite saying it has strict self-imposed rules on who it does business with. Santander also helped AUSA, one of the largest ethanol and sugar producers in the world, to issue a 150 R dollars, I don't know what R dollars means, in green CRA for a fee of roughly 710,000 euros. USA has received a dozen environmental fines for illegal deforestation, and was also responsible for leaking toxic material into a river that is vital to the Umantha, an indigenous tribe of Brazilian state of Mato Grosso. Like UBS, Santander claims to have a strict rule book to eliminate environmental and social risk in the business, later stating that CRAs are regulated by Brazilian Securities and Exchange Commission. Santander has strong governance processes in place to ensure that required market standards are adhered to, the bank said in a statement. How European banks may be further harming species. Aside from Unearthed report, a new study from the Environmental Investigation Agency, the EIA, has linked 62 banks and financial institutions, including some in Europe, to harming threatened animal species. The report states that the banks have invested in 3 companies that produce traditional Chinese medicine using leopard and pangolin parts. Both animals are classified as highly threatened species, a stone's throw away from being considered endangered. UBS is once again named in having invested in companies, but so are the UK lender HSBC and Germany Deutsche Bank, all 3 of them members of the Royal Foundation United for Wildlife Financial Task Force, which was launched in 2018 to stop the trafficking of wildlife, according to the report. While HSBC and Deutsche Bank are still direct investors in the Chinese companies, according to the report, they are linked to them via assessment management companies. They claim that these investments came about through passive funds, a type of automatic investment that is channeling money into shares based on linked indexes, the BBC reports. UBS has not responded to requests for comment. Both the EIA and the Unearthed reports are 2 of many which claim to shed light on the impact that major bank businesses' practices have on the environment. The worsening dangers of climate change have prompted investors and companies across the globe to increasingly turn towards green financial products, including green bonds, and present themselves as sustainable businesses that care about the environment. Yet the concept of greenwashing, which refers to when a company makes misleading claims about the positive effects it has on the environment, is looming large too. The number of instances of greenwashing by banks and financial services companies around the world has risen by 70% in the past 12 months, according to RepRisk, a Swiss environmental and social corporate governance data provider. The European Union is hoping to stem the flow of greenwashing with its new European Green Bond regulation, which is due to come online in 2024. It will introduce legal sanctions by any misleading business practices related to sustainability and the environment. The newly approved rules against greenwashing in the bond market include a registration system and supervisory framework. Under the new regulations, companies issuing green bonds will have to disclose more information about the practices of special regards to show how these investments feed into companies' plans to transition to a net zero carbon emission economy. The EU isn't alone in wanting to regulate greenwashing. Reuters reports that the Swiss government will consider the matter as part of the plan to introduce overall state regulation on sustainable finance in the country. Switzerland, a huge center for asset and wealth management, accounted for sustainable investments totaling around 1.6 trillion Swiss francs, or 1.69 trillion euros, in 2022, according to the industry association Swiss Sustainable Finance. The Swiss Bankers Association, which represents lenders like UBS and Julius Baer, as well as Switzerland's smaller banks, wants to continue with self-regulation rather than be subject to tighter government rules, according to Reuters. UBS, the country's biggest bank with $5.5 trillion in invested assets, also supports self-regulation, saying it sets a minimum standard. Self-regulation doesn't work. But, I'm totally following the rules. Yeah. Nothing to see here.
We even hired a guy to make sure.
Yeah.
We even put a guy into payroll, make sure we follow the rules. Of course, we fire him as soon as he says anything we don't like.
Yeah. There's a wave of regulation coming to Swiss banks. It will really hit them, said Daniel Schmid-Perez of banking consultancy ZEB. He estimates the total cost for lenders to adjust their processes would be around 100 million to 200 million francs. Yet many consider the cost is worth it to boost sustainability in an effort to avoid climate disaster. Let's hope that's true. On to your next story.
This is what businesses do. They hire these things called consultant firms.
Yeah.
And they say they're doing. Yeah.
We're doing it, guys.
We hired a consulting firm. And they're setting us in the right direction. Don't worry about it. We got us lip service. That's what we got.
Yeah, we've had a
Mary Clark Yellen has a story in AP about Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, who's officially the Speaker of the House. After 3 weeks, a low-key member of Congress for less than a decade, new House Speaker Mike Johnson isn't recognizable to most Americans, but the social conservative and devoted ally of former President Donald Trump has been a quiet force in the Republican Congress now. He unexpectedly leads. Most importantly, he was able to get all of their 220 votes to become Speaker of the House floor. That's something none of his more well-known colleagues were able to do, as Republicans struggled for more than 3 weeks to pick up a replacement for ousted Kevin McCarthy. Colleagues say that deeply religious Louisiana Republican who calls himself a servant will be steady hand and give them a fresh start. Many hope he will finally be able to move past their seemingly intractable divisions within our conference that have felled every House GOP leader in the past decade. A friend to all and an enemy to none, Republican Conference Chairwoman Elise Stefanik said when nominating Johnson ahead of Speaker vote Wednesday. Free from political baggage that can come with higher profile, the affable Johnson, 51, promises to restore faith in Congress as he assumes the speakership under remarkable circumstances. He's taking charge after 3 weeks of infighting, other failed candidacies, and no action on legislation. But it remains to be seen how well Johnson will fare uniting his fractured conference at the House immediately plunges into debates over government spending or in gaining trust from the Democrats who are deeply suspicious of his socially conservative record and his support for Trump's efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. So let's see if this guy has a spine or he's just another Trump lackey. Addressing the House after his election, Johnson repeatedly invoked his Christian faith. Well, he's a Republican. What do you expect? His mother was 17 when he was born, he said. His father was a firefighter who was injured in the line of duty. Yeah, well, injured means what? He promised to quickly move forward to conservative priorities like support for Israel and border security. Yeah, what his mother and father did has nothing to do with him. The time for action is now. I will not let you down. A constitutional lawyer and former member of the Louisiana State House, Johnson was first elected to the U.S. House in 2016. He's the first Louisianan. You know they're called Louisianans, did you? He's the first Louisiananite to become Speaker and the first Southerner to serve as Speaker since Republican Newt Gingrich, who brought disgrace upon the House with every move. Among the more conservative members of the GOP Congress, Johnson has consistently opposed the woman's right to abortion. We will get the number of abortions down to 0, he posted on Twitter. No, you won't. I say in reality, he also opposed legislation last year where required states to recognize same-sex marriages. So everybody's private life is my business. Another one of those guys. Yep. An active member of House Judiciary Committee, Johnson gained some notice as one of the leading Republican questioners of witnesses during Trump's impeachment in 2019. He continued to act as Trump's chief defenders. So we got a Trump lackey. So let's see how much of a Trump lackey he is. Former Georgia Republican Doug Collins, the top Republican Judiciary Committee during the first impeachment, said Wednesday that during hectic times in the committee, Johnson would calmly try to organize a way forward. So, boys, how can we kiss Trump's butt and still look like we're doing our job? Is basically what he was trying to do. Thread that old needle. House Speaker can only do so much, Collins said, but they will feel listened to with Mike. Collins said people don't know Johnson will be struck by his humility, but don't mistake the humility and kindness for not being forceful what he believes in. Who cares? Most concerning to many Democrats is Johnson's support for Trump. 2 years ago, as the former president was trying to legally overturn a presidential defeat on November 7th. After Biden was declared the winner, Johnson posted that he had called Trump to tell him to stay strong and keep fighting, sir. On January 6th, as Congress prepared to certify Biden's win, and just before the Trump supporters overran the Capitol, Johnson tweeted, "We must fight for the election integrity and constitution preservation of our republic." Ugh. So there's no sane people apparently in the U.S. House of Representatives on the Republican side. They think losing elections is a reason to start fighting. Basically. Okay, so Johnson also has been a staunch supporter of Louisiana's oil and gas industry. He received more campaign money from Congress during his 7 years in Congress than any other, and like many of his geopolitical colleagues, has repeatedly downplayed climate change. Well, Louisiana, they're going to be underwater in a few years, and they're going to go, "Oh, why are we underwater? I wonder what happened." Yep. Climate change doesn't exist. Keep it up, Louisiana. You and Florida are the ones that are going to pay, not us, not me. Across the Capitol, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, told reporters that he looks forward to sitting down with Johnson and finding a bipartisan way to avoid shutdown before government funding expires in November. I hope and look forward to working with him in a bipartisan way, Schumer said. I hope you will. Johnson's ability to unite his own side of the aisle was obvious, at least for now. Not one Republican voted against it. So there you are, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, because they could not find John Smith or Bill Jones or Tom, some other ordinary name. So, of course, this works in fine with the special prosecutor, Jack Smith, because we just have our nice old Anglo-Saxon names.
Oh yeah, and also very generic Republicans as well. Just, oh wow, you stand for all the things people hate Republicans for. Am I even surprised?
Who can make a speech against Mike Johnson? What an ordinary name. Mike Johnson.
All right. My story. The Leaning Tower in Italy. Huh? Sorry?
It's dangerous as hell, but still a ordinary name. Mike Johnson, sorry.
The Leaning Tower in Italy is being closed because they fear it's going to collapse. This is from Rebecca Ann Hughes on Euronews Travel. The Italy government has criticized the local council for not taking proper care of the structure. A historic tower in the northern Italy city of Bologna.
Bologna. It was her day the other day, Tuesday. Yeah. It was National Day. Yeah. Bologna
was closed to the public over the weekend after concerns about stability. The Garsenda Tower is already leaning, but sensors detected some unusual and worrying movement. The structure has been under close observation for months because of increasing movement due to its weak foundations. We're working to do everything that needs to be done, City Mayor Matteo Lepore said during a council meeting on Monday. The area around the Garsenda Tower has been sealed off as scientists from the city's university monitor the structure for movement. The historic monument was built between 1109 and 1119, and in one of Bologna's so-called twin towers, along with the taller Asinelli Tower, which tourists can climb up. The Garsenda rises 48 meters high. It was once one of dozens of medieval towers around the city, built by aristocratic residents to demonstrate their wealth. Look, I'm so rich I can build a tower. The structure already leans at an angle of 4 degrees, only slightly less than the renowned 5-degree tilt of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Now, the detection of anomalous oscillations has prompted road closures around the structure to allow for detailed monitoring of the potential instability. A committee of scientists have installed acoustic sensors that will detect creaking or cracking along the pendulum to track movement. The road will remain blocked off until Friday, and the neighboring Asanelli Tower has also been closed to visitors. The danger of collapse has been underestimated. Directing traffic away from the area surrounding the tower was not for fears over safety, but to allow sensors to record more precise data, Mayor Lepore said. The Garcienda has been leaning for several centuries. In the 14th century, it was shortened by 10 meters over fear's collapse, and has undergone several interventions over the decades. Steel bands were fitted around the tower in 2019, and the foundations were reinforced with mortar injections in 2022. But the works do not appear to have solved the issue. Lucia Borgonzoni, an undersecretary for Italy's culture ministry, has criticized the local council's approach. I'm going to criticize their stubbornness. Why do they want this tower up so badly? There's probably tens of towers that they've already demolished because they're like, oh, we want to build the H&M here or a McDonald's, you know? But this particular tower, they're like, we cannot let it fall. It is part of the Twin Towers, okay? We can't let it go. Like, this is the family, like, paying off people, like the people who originally built the tower, right? Their ancestors or their descendants are like, no, my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather built this tower, and you're not going to let anybody take it down.
We want this monument to poor engineering.
Yeah.
Yay!
Talking to Italian press on Sunday, the undersecretary said she was concerned about the oscillations detected so far. She also suggested the scientific team and change of monitor the structure for the last 5 years had underestimated the situation. She added the government would embark on a €5 million fund of National Recovery and Resilience Plan for restoration works. The government is moved to save the iconic tower after the city council wasted time, she claimed. Wow, she even... We'll fix it for you guys. But there's a little short story on the Leaning Tower of Bologna. I'm sorry, it's an easy joke. Short and sweet. Hopefully they fix that. Or I think they should just take it down. But it's not my city. It's not my culture. So of course I can say that. Your story.
Well, what they ought to do is just put cameras around it, 360-degree cameras all the way around it for when it does collapse. They have a really cool video.
Obviously,
and
that's
they can just
important,
show that. Yeah, show that to the tourists. This is what happened. We tried to stop it, but here, here's the remnants of the tire. Here's a pile of bricks. It's made of bricks, right? I don't know. Okay. Anyway, in weather news and hurricane news, we haven't covered a hurricane in a while. We're up to Hurricane Otis in the Pacific. And Hurricane Otis has slammed into Mexico. This is a story from AP Mark Stevenson and Maria Verza. A day after Hurricane Otis roared ashore in Acapulco, unleashing massive floods and setting off looting. The resort city of nearly 1 million descended into chaos, leaving residents without electricity or internet service as the toll remained uncertain. The early images and accounts were of extensive devastation, toppled trees and power lines lying down in brown floodwaters that in some areas extended for miles. The resulting destruction delayed a comprehensive response by the government, which is still assessing the damage along Mexico's Pacific coast, and made residents desperate. Many of the once sleek beachfront hotels in Acapulco look like toothless, shattered hulks a day after Category 5 storm blew out hundreds and possibly thousands of windows. There seemed to be a widespread frustration with authorities. While some 10,000 military troops were deployed in the area, they lacked the tools to clean tons of mud and fallen trees from the streets. Hundreds of trucks from government electricity company arrived in Acapulco early Wednesday, but seemed at a loss to how to restore power with down electricity lines lying in feet of mud and water. Wait for the water to recede, I suppose. Jacob Suzak was staying at a group of friends at the beachfront hotel when Otis hit. We laid down on the floor and between some beds. We prayed a lot. One of the friends showed reporters photos of the windowless, shattered rooms in the hotel. It looked as if someone had put clothes, beds, and furniture in a blender, leaving a shredded mess. Sawchuk complained that his group was given no warning, nor were they offered safer shelter by the hotel. Pablo Navarro, an auto parts worker who was lodged in temporary accommodations at a beachfront hotel, thought he might die in his 13th-story hotel room. I took shelter in the bathroom, and thankfully the door held, but there was some rooms where the wind blew the windows and the doors. They left out an S there. Navarro stood Wednesday outside a discount grocery store and household goods store near the hotel zone as hundreds of people wrestled everything from packs of hot dogs and toilet paper to flat screen TVs out of the muddy store, struggling to push loaded metal shopping carts into the mud-choked streets outside. It's out of control. Isabel de la Cruz, resident of Acapulco, tried to move a shopping cart loaded with diapers, instant noodles, and toilet paper through the mud. Well, you're looting, dude. Hey, we're looters. She viewed what she took as a chance to help her family as she lost a tin roof in her home and her family's important documents in a hurricane. You're going to help your family with diapers. Yeah, I guess you needed diapers. You got to get them, right? When's the government ever going to look after the common people, she said. The answer will be never. Inside one store, National Guard officers allowed looters to take perishable items like food, but made futile efforts to prevent people from taking appliances, even as people outside loaded refrigerators on top of taxis. It took nearly all day Wednesday for authorities to partially rope the main highway connecting Acapulco to the state capital and here's a word for you. Chilpancingo in Mexico City. The state capital, Chilpancingo, and Mexico City. The vital ground link between dozens of emergency vehicles, personnel in trucks, and carrying supplies to reach the battered port. Acapulco's commercial and military airports are still too badly damaged to resume flights. Acapulco's Diamond Zone, an oceanfront area replete with hotels, restaurants, and other tourist attractions, look to be mostly underwater in drone footage that 4O TV posted on Wednesday afternoon. Boulevards and bridges completely hidden by an enormous lake of brown water. Large buildings had their walls and roofs partially completely ripped off, dislodged solar panels, cars, debris littered the lobby of one of the severely damaged hotel. People wandered up to the waist and water in some areas, while the others, less flooded streets, soldiers shoveled rubble and fallen palm trees from the pavement. Wednesday night, the city plunged into darkness. There was no phone service. Some people were able to use satellite phones loaned by the Red Cross to let families know they're okay. So, Acapulco, first you have the Mother Nature slamming into you, and then you get the human cost of looting because, hey, let's go get free stuff. And that, of course, complicates rescue work and emergency vehicles and everything else. But what can you say? When people are poor and they see free stuff, they go get it. Your story.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, some of that stuff will just go bad. You know, the food and stuff will just go bad. So might as well eat it now. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in culture news, let's talk about how, I don't know why they say Gen Z teens, because it's actually Gen Alpha now. Gen Z is now 20-year-olds, right? The people writing this article don't realize time progresses forward. So they probably still think millennials are teenagers. I don't know.
Someday you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Gen Z young adults / maybe alpha teens want less sex on screen. And Theo Farrant's gonna tell us why. According to a new study, viewers find too much sexy time in their TV shows a major turnoff. A recent study conducted at UCLA reveals the individuals between the age of 13 to 24, okay, some of those are Gen Z and some of those are Alpha, are looking for less sex scenes in both televisions and film. The research has discovered that Gen Z showed a heightened inclination towards narratives centered around good old-fashioned platonic relationships rather than explicit sexual encounters. They're probably completely just desensitized, to be honest. I'm desensitized to it. And I'm older, so. In fact, over half, or 51.5% of the 1,500 participants in UCLA's Teen and Screen survey admitted they'd much rather watch content focused on friendships. Despite the popularity of sex-filled shows such as HBO's Euphoria and Netflix's Sex Education, almost half of the respondents, 47.5%, believe that most TV shows and movies could do without including sex in their plots. Another 44.3% thought the romance in media was quite overused. Researchers behind the study have coined this evolving trend as no-mance, because scientists aren't very clever with their naming schemes. What's the reason behind these shifts? The research team attributed Generation Z's preference for chaste entertainment to a desire for more wholesome character relationships, which has intensified following months of isolation during the pandemic. Young people are feeling a lack of close friendships, a separation from the community, and a sense that their digital citizen identity has superseded their sense of belonging in the real world. I've also felt this way since high school, but I don't have a pandemic to blame for it. God damn it. Explains researchers. Explains researchers Stephanie Rivas Lara and Hirul Kotecha in an essay discussing the survey results. Anna, a 16-year-old survey respondent, conveyed her feelings, stating, "When there's media with too much sex, me and my friends feel very uncomfortable. My friends and I maybe awkwardly bear through it," said 20-year-old Joseph, another respondent. I'm going to be honest here, everyone feels that way. I don't think anybody watches sex scenes and goes, "Yeah, woo!" Everyone's just like, The results of the survey reflect the widespread criticism that HBO's hotly debated show The Idol received due to its excessive nudity, explicit sexual content. The show faced accusations of portraying themes related to rape fantasy and torture porn. And also, it was just badly written, supposedly. I haven't watched it yet, so I can't say for myself, but a lot of people who make video essays online said this show was badly written. What's going on? Yaldus Yules, the founder of the UCLA Center for Scholars and Storytellers, commented it's not that young people aren't interested in TV, movies, or other media with sexual content, it's that they want to see more different types of relationships. The growing no-mance trend also lines up with the past studies showing a decline in sexual activity amongst Gen Z. In 2021, a study by Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, reported that only 30% of teenagers had engaged in sexual activity, a significant decrease from the 38% in 2019 and over 50% preceding its decades. They also are post-pandemic, so they're like, I don't want to be near anybody because I'm going to get sick. This decline constitutes the largest record drop in the history of the survey, which had been conducted biennially. I don't know that word. I don't know how to pronounce that word. I think it's supposed to be biannually or a different word. Biennially, there we go, since 1990, and involved over 17,000 adolescent students. The CDC's Kathleen Either said that the decline may be a good thing if it reflects more young people making healthy decisions to delay sex and reduce their number of partners. But what concerns me is this is potentially reflective of social isolation, said Either, director of CDC's Division of Adolescent and School Health. I think it is. I think people are becoming more isolated physically, and like they said, they're on the internet more. Their digital personas are more easier to deal with than their physical personas, their real life personas, so to say. But maybe that's just me. I feel that way. Anyways, we'll see you on to this day in history.
Well, like I said, I'm not a prude or anything, but I've never liked sex scenes in movies. I think they're a waste. That's the reason the fast forward button was invented. It's like, past this nonsensical shit. Just say, put a thing on the screen that said they slept together last night, and just move on with the story. And we don't care. It's like showing somebody go to the bathroom. Who gives a shit? It doesn't have nothing to do with the story. First of all, we're not interested in their performance. They don't use the real actors. They're body doubles, so you're not seeing anybody's parts. You're not seeing anything. Another thing, porn is everywhere. You can get internet porn, no trouble. Doesn't matter where you are. Well, some countries block it, but in the United States, it's made sex boring to people. That's my opinion. It just made it so ordinary. It's like, just another chore. On today, what happened in history today? This day in history. That was my old man's opinion on why young people are bored with sex. Not bored with sex, just don't want to watch actors do it. It's like, it doesn't, it's been always my opinion anyway. Even when I was a kid, it was like, does this have anything to do with the movie? Nothing, no. Get past it, let's go. This day in 1795, the National Convention, the assembly that governed France during the pivotal period of the Revolution, was dispersed. Okay. In this day in 1813, British and U.S. troops clashed in the Battle of Chateauguay during the War of 1812. It was the War of 1813 by the time that happened. In 1825, after some 8 years of construction, the Erie Canal, which connects the Great Lakes to New York City via the Hudson River at Albany, officially opened. Its success propelled New York City into a major commercial center and encouraged canal construction through the United States. It also gave birth to several cities like Rochester, New York, Syracuse, Utica, Erie, and Buffalo. I think Buffalo was already there because of Niagara River Falls and whatnot. 1881, a feud between the Earp brothers and the outlaw gang led by Ike Clanton escalated into the celebrated gunfight of the OK Corral. So that took place. The gunfight of the OK Corral took place on this day in 1881. In 1905, St. Petersburg Soviet was formed during the Russian Revolution of 1905. So they had their revolution in 1905, man, before the one that happened in 1917 or 1916, whatever the Russian Revolution was. 1916, Francois Mitterrand, who served his 2 terms as president of France, was the country's first socialist to hold office, was born. In 1918, Prussian General Erich Lauterhoff was forced to resign by Emperor William II on Prince Maximilian's advice in an effort to establish an armistice agreement. In the armistice was signed famously November 11th, so a couple weeks later. 1955, a constitutional law was perpetual neutrality in Austria was promulgated. You know what promulgated means? Nobody does. They decided to throw that word in there. We have to look at promulgated. A constitutional law of perpetual neutrality. In other words, they passed a law saying Austria, we're neutral. 1955. America's first jet airliner, the Boeing 77, entered service for Pan Am World Airways in 1958, the first 707. Following the absence in 1970, following the absence of more than 3 years, Dr. Muhammad Ali returned to the ring, defeating Jerry Quarry, the Great White Hope. Ali had been barred from fighting after he refused induction into the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War. And of course, he was drafted when he was like 25, when most people drafted were 19. 1984, the action thriller The Terminator was released in the United States, hugely successful, and made Arnold Schwarzenegger a star. Did not make Arnold Schwarzenegger a star. He was already a star because of the movie he made called Pumping Iron. So when these people claim he was a star, I knew who he was, so he was a star. All right. 2005, the Chicago White Sox defeated the Houston Astros to win the team's first World Series in 2017. And our featured event is Park Chung-hee assassinated. On this day in 1979, South Korean President Park Chung-hee was assassinated by his lifelong friend Kim Jae-kyu, head of the Korean Central Intelligence Agency, who was sentenced to death for his actions. Our featured biography. Happy birthday to Hillary Rodham Clinton. I say United States Senator, First Lady, and Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton. Rodham Clinton was born on this day, October 26, 1947. Happy 75th. Also birthdays today, Seth MacFarlane, creator of Family Guy. That guy, Seth MacFarlane's birthday today. He's born in 1973. Keith Urban, Australian singer, was born in 1967. Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, Shah of Iran, was born in 1919. And Francois Mitterrand, we already covered Francois. And what day is it today besides National Pumpkin Day? It is National Day of the Deployed. So if you are deployed somewhere in the world and your life sucks because you're in the military, it's your day. It's your day, your sucky, sucky day. National Pumpkin Day, we did. National Mincemeat Day. Do we even know what mincemeat is? Do you have any idea what it even is? Well, it's that. It's National Mincemeat Day.
Mincemeat is
It's like
ground beef with a bunch of spices and other things in it. That's what makes it mincemeat. There you go.
I didn't know there was actual meat in it. Anyway, National Mule Day also today. Maybe there's meal with mincemeat. Maybe that's it, because it's National Meal Day. Yeah, you get tired of your old meal, you know, you get a little long in the tooth, you gotta make a meal out of them because, you know, times are tough. Just kidding. National Tennessee Day. It's National Tennessee Day. It's National Financial Crime Fighter Day. And get out there and fight those financial crimes, you financial crime fighters. That's it. That's all. That's all I got.
Sorry, I muted myself. This is Alison here from the Netherlands. Not surprised that banks are evil and lying to you, and they hire other people to tell you that they're totally not evil at all. And we will see you on Friday for our Friday's news dump, where we're going to cover everything for the weekend.
And this is Roger with your local non-shooting news, because we definitely have another active shooter situation in the United States, which let's just, as we call it, Thursday. And this particular Thursday, we are done with the comprehensive news of planet Earth for October 26, 2023 on Before Coffee.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.